Hello, peeps. Welcome to Heart Talks. This is going to be a fun show. This is Jodi Parker, and I think you probably will remember her. She is our vaccine queen. This girl knows everything there is to know about
Don't go that far.
She knows more than most everybody that I know about vaccines. She's also... She is probably, other than myself, of course, the best example of being a mommy that I know. She is raising her family as natural as you possibly can, and for obvious reasons and different reasons, and all the reasons that have come into your life to make you choose this way. I personally found out I was very allergic to pharmaceuticals, and had to, once I was on my own and out of parental guidance, I was able to start choosing natural health for myself. And so, unfortunately, I had to wait till I was 18 and moved out of the home. You have started your children right away, and I really honor that process.
Thank you.
So thank you again for coming on the show. Anything that we're going to talk about today is going to be helpful for all of our mommies and daddies out there.
And even people who aren't mommies and daddies.
That's right. That's right. Yes, because health, you can start health at any time.
Absolutely.
At any age. Well, Jodi, okay, so just give us a brief description of how you got all started in this in the first place.
How I got all started. Well, my degree's in psychology, and I worked with I focused on neurology and child development. And so I worked with kids who had a lot of emotional and behavioral challenges for a living for a couple of years. And I saw what pharmaceuticals were doing to them when we had to put them on things like Ritalin, and how they reacted and how it changed their personality and the health problems that came from that. So that was sort of my first indication that there may be a better way. And in 2001, so 15 years ago, actually 15 and a half now, a friend of mine who's an herbalist sat me down and taught me about conventional farming practices and the differences between organic and conventional, and the differences between holistic medicine and what's accepted medicine, Western medicine. And I went home and I packed up everything in my kitchen and gave it all to a soup kitchen and started eating organic, because everything she told me, some people say it's scary, and I guess you could look at it that way, but to me, it's just makes sense that you would use foods in a natural setting, that synthetic food isn't going to be as healthy for you, and things that kill bugs are going to kill the probiotics in our stomach, the bugs in our stomach that help digest. And so it makes sense to me, it's logical that you wouldn't use that. But it really became clear in my head. In 2004, I had my oldest, who's now 12. And by 5 months old, he was heading straight for liver failure. Mm. And we were trying everything, and the pediatrician wanted to put him on Zantac and Miralax. And I was not on board with that, because I wanted to treat the cause, not the symptom. And so I found a doctor who does bioenergetic medicine and was able to help us. And that started my journey into really learning about natural health. And when I say natural health, I don't just mean herbs or homeopathy or eating the right foods. I also mean emotions, and how you're balancing them and how you're processing them, and the energy of the situation and how that's affecting you. And it became very clear to me through my training from my friend who did the holistic medicine, as well as a friend of mine who is a shaman. And I told him, you need to teach me. And so now I have done all of that training in the shamanic and energy work world. And I think you need to be able to heal energetically, emotionally, and physically. And I think if one of those pieces are missing, you won't find full balance. You won't find homeostasis. And without homeostasis, you can't have health.
Wow. We have some mommies with us today. It's so cool. One of our mommies is so determined. This is so typical of mommyhood here. She's in her car. She's got the kids in the back seat. Hubby's driving because this is what multitasking is.
Yes, it is.
So
and
mommy.
thank you, husband, for driving.
We've got another one on mute because she's got 3 kids. I mean, this is Heart Talks right here. This is real.
Real life for real people.
Right. Okay, so, I think whenever we back up the train to the very basics, I think one of the things that I didn't really know this whenever I had my kids, but how important that mommy needs to heal in order to keep her family healed. Oh my God. This is so vital. And it was only after my kids were kind of, elementary-ish age that this started becoming something that you heard about, because you really didn't hear about that too much. Self-care was not big at that point. And so I think, really what we have in starting this whole new program, one must take care of themselves.
Exactly. Like, you can't put it any other way. In Chinese medicine, they have a proverb: heal the mommy, heal the baby. Right. And you can look at that from, again, energetic, emotional, and physical perspectives. At an energetic level, if mommy's energy is chaotic and baby is learning how to react with the world and interact with the world by watching mom and dad, then that is going to affect how they interact with their world and how they create their experience. If mommy is very angry, very scared, very anxious, then the kids will then respond to the world with those same emotions. And we all know that one of the biggest indicators of health is how stressed are you? Mm-hmm. Stress is a common component to every chronic health condition there is. And so mommy getting that energetic and emotional stuff going is key. Physically, when you're pregnant, your body will actually leach minerals from your bones. And one of the things that our bodies do to protect ourselves from heavy metals is deposit it in the fat and in the bones of our body. And when you're pregnant, that gets released. And so one of the best detoxes for mercury is to have a baby. But where does the mercury end up, right? Same with aluminum, same with lead, etc. And so if mom is toxic, now baby is toxic. And if mom is breastfeeding, and let me be clear about this, it is still better to breastfeed than put the baby on formula, period, okay? So let me be very clear about that. If you feel like you're toxic and you're breastfeeding, don't stop breastfeeding, because your body that is trying to support you is also going to give all those good nutrients to baby. Right. So it's really, really important. In fact, really recent studies are showing that babies should be given nothing at all except breast milk for the first 6 months, period, not even formula. Because it's about the virgin gut and getting the probiotics balanced, and breast milk turns on genes, it turns off genes. It is key to immune function, etc. So again, let me reiterate, if you feel toxic, still breastfeed your babies. But if you're past that, if you're not eating healthy, where are your children learning to eat? And at its core, I don't care how many supplements and how many vitamins and how many of everything you do, the number one way to stay healthy is to manage your stress and eat real food. Period.
Right.
You know?
And of course, the example that the parents set will be the habits that children can pick up. And I'm watching my own families, and each one of them are making efforts to do better, to, you can, and some people have to ease into this change because they've been having home cooking for so long, and that's what you were taught was healthy for you. Okay, which brings us to reading labels.
Yes. And they don't make it easy on you to read those labels. No, they really don't. So, and that's a tough thing with feeding the family is, you hear a lot of people, well, when I was a kid, we didn't have to worry about that. Well, yeah, when we were kids, there were no genetically modified foods. And so that hit the market starting in 1996, but really became prevalent in 2002. Mm-hmm. And they said, it'll grow more food, it'll be faster food. Well, the use of pesticides and herbicides has gone up by I don't even remember the exact number. I want to say 5 million pounds of pesticide and herbicide usage more. Mm-hmm. And again, I mentioned at the beginning of our talk, you're adding those kill bugs and those kill plants, and we are living beings. And while they may not affect us in the same way, it is naive to think that they're not going to affect us at all, especially in the amounts that we are being exposed to. And so it comes down to, always buy organic. Right. And that's expensive. Right. And I get that that's expensive. And I get that there are families out there that are doing the best that they can. And you're feeding your kids and you're feeling like, wow, am I poisoning my children while I do this? Mm. And there's some ways around that for sure. But I think the biggest way around that is to recognize that if you take care of you, the universe will take care of you.
I love that because my grandma told me that when I had my first child, and of course I had the stresses of being the young mommy and what am I going to do, I was a single mom. And she told me exactly that. Honey, if you make sure you're taken care of, your children will automatically be taken care of.
Yes. And I think the other thing that comes into that, I remember, I have 3 children, and with each successive pregnancy, my husband got laid off when I was about 8 weeks pregnant with our second. And, talk about managing stress.
Right.
But it came very clear to me, I was meditating about it, that these children have the ability to manifest too. I don't have to manifest for them because they can manifest for themselves. And with each successive child, I don't know where the money came from, but it worked out.
Right.
And you have to remember that in a family, you're a team. You're all working together and you all have manifestation abilities, and you can tap into each other to make that happen.
Wow.
Just because the baby's little doesn't mean they aren't powerful.
Jodi, I never even thought of that perspective before. And and we talk about all the time how you have to be careful of your thoughts, be more organized and intentional with your thoughts. And kids are just kind of like that already.
Right? And their kids are really great at processing emotions. They're really great at knowing what their body needs. I mean, if you take a child, if you fed them healthy from the beginning and they walk into a health food store, they will pick the chips, but they'll also pick the broccoli. My 3-year-old will quite literally, and I am not exaggerating, will go get the chlorella tablets out of the pantry, pour herself a bowl, and have a snack of chlorella tablets. And that's when you go, Mom, win!
Right. I want to just say briefly to our guests here, because I know you've got kids, if there's any one of you that would like to ask Jodi a question right now, just this would be your chance right here. Do we have any questions from our guest? They all have kids, so I know that they're muting out so that they don't disturb the show. And I really thank them, for joining us. It's not easy to have these live shows.
Right? My kids are all at soccer practice with daddy right now, or otherwise they would be wandering around in the background. We almost talked my 12-year-old into coming on with us, but he preferred to play soccer. Can't imagine why.
Oh my God. Oh. Well, okay. So I know that uh, I think one of the things, okay, let's just say you're kind of starting new. You've been in the old way, and your child may be having some allergy issues or some kind of issues or whatever. What is the first step to getting to know your child and what they need and don't need?
That's a great question. And something you'll see a lot, especially on Facebook, is people say, what should I do here? And everybody say this, you have to do this. And there is no such thing as this, because everybody's different.
Right.
Right? And some people say, well, you need to detox them. Well, what if their system's not strong enough to detox? Or you need to take them off of gluten. Well, what if they're not allergic to gluten? Like, it's not going to be a one size fits all, but there are some hard, fast rules that you can go with that are going to apply to everyone. Number one, if it's made by man, don't eat it. And so that covers high fructose corn syrup, any kind of synthetic food dyes, any kind of chemical preservative. Those things are all known to cause things like ADHD. High fructose corn syrup has mercury in it from the way they process. Now, is it very trace amounts? Yes, it's very trace amounts. So if your kids have been eating high fructose corn syrup, please don't freak out. However, mercury bioaccumulates. What that means is it builds up in your tissues over time. And so the more you are exposed to it, the more likely you are to hit a threshold where it's actually going to start manifesting in physical problems. Mm-hmm. And, there's a lot of things we can't control in this world. We cannot control air pollution. We cannot control water pollution. We cannot control, but we can do things to mitigate it. You can put in air purifiers. You can, diffuse essential oils. You can get water purifiers for your drinking water, and so on and so forth. The goal is to have less toxins coming into your body and more than are coming out, because you want to get them out as much as you can. The other key to that, you don't eat man-made food. So genetically modified foods, again, they're man-made. And we can go back and forth on the science of whether or not the genetically modified organism itself is safe. I don't think it is, but there are plenty of people who think it is. Mm-hmm. However, most people can agree on the fact that Roundup, which is the big herbicide that's sprayed on everything, is a carcinogen. And it's causing leaky gut syndrome, and it's causing people not to be able to absorb all of their nutrients because it is a mineral chelator, which means it grabs onto the minerals and basically they leave your body instead of getting utilized. And so avoiding those things is key to really embracing health. And then the third thing I would say, greens. Greens and greens and greens and greens, and in whatever way you can get them into them, you need greens. Yes. The biggest reason you need greens, chlorophyll.
Yes.
Chlorophyll, I have some cool facts for you. This is really interesting stuff. So it's the same molecule as hemoglobin, except hemoglobin has iron on it, and that's what's in your blood, whereas chlorophyll has magnesium on it. So that is why it is so good at oxygenating your blood and helping strengthen your blood. They actually used it as a transfusion in World War II when they didn't have enough blood.
Wow.
Isn't that cool?
Wow.
But it has all your trace minerals. It has your vitamins. It has detox ability because it oxygenates your blood. It has antioxidants, so it takes away those free radicals. It will help bind heavy metals depending on. Now, iceberg lettuce, not the same as chlorella. So chlorella has more chlorophyll in it than any other organism that we know of. The next highest one is going to be spirulina. Wheatgrass is up there, alfalfa grass, oat grass, any of those things that are really green are going to help detox the body. and support the immune system and support the function of the blood and the body. And so getting greens into kids, and I know there are parents out there going, yeah, right, sure, right.
Okay.
But there are ways to do it. And I don't want to give myself a commercial because I represent a company who does that. And
Right. Go ahead. Give it a
Give
shot.
it a commercial.
It is part of your
It is
what
part
you
of
do.
my business. There's a company out there called Purium, and it stands for Pure and Premium. And the guy who founded the company wrote the Green Foods Bible. And so it started as a greens company and has now branched out into many other things. But they recognized that it is difficult to get nutrient-dense food into your children and into your life, especially when you think about we're running from place to place and we have soccer practice and basketball and school this and everybody's running around. And it's hard to find time to cook. And a lot of people out there are not going to sit down and eat a salad. I don't care how much we tell people, eat your broccoli and eat your greens. They're not necessarily going to get it done. And so what they've done is they've made into capsules and powders and things that you can add to your food and to make with shakes. And they recognize that it needs to taste good. So like the big thing in my house right now, cocoa mint spirulina. I'm not kidding. Like the kids were fighting over it the first time they tasted it. It's cocoa and peppermint and spirulina. And we add it to our breakfast cereal and we add it to smoothies. And, the kids have a multivitamin plus protein shake. They call it the MVP. It's chocolate flavored. So we add it to that. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to be serious here. I've been eating organic for 15 years. I did all the cleanses before I got pregnant with my kids who still had issues because of toxicity issues. Mm-hmm. And I joined Purium about 15 months ago, and I'm shocked by what a difference it made in the health. And I started to learn it's because vitamins in like a multivitamin form aren't absorbed by your body correctly. And here's why. A vitamin isn't just one, like ascorbic acid. Let's take vitamin C. It's a perfect example. Ascorbic acid is not vitamin C because vitamin C is a complex. It has a bunch of different parts to it that make it work correctly in your body. Ascorbic acid is like if vitamin C was an egg, ascorbic acid is the shell. So it is an antioxidant, but you can't cure scurvy with it. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes.
And so you need to get vitamins from your food. Well, but our food is nutrient depleted. The soil is depleted. It's got all this stuff on it. And so that's where Purium came in, is they went, we're going to go find volcanic soil really far away from any industry that's mineral rich, and we're going to pick these things at the height of potency, and we're going to dry them out, not using heat, because if you use heat, that's going to kill all of your enzymes and all of your, denature the proteins, etc. And so when you add water back into Purium, it's still live food. And why is it important to be live? Because it has the enzymes in it that help you digest it.
Right.
How cool is that? And you can add that into foods, and it makes a big difference. And the other thing I noticed, my 8-year-old is the one who is not into his vegetables. My 12-year-old and my 3-year-old will eat just about anything, but the 8-year-old is picky. And he found a green shake that he liked. In this case, it was the apple berry power shake, and it has wheatgrass and spirulina and rice bran solubles and carrots and all this good stuff for him. He's eating healthier now because his body is detoxing, and it changes your taste buds. The reason green drinks don't taste good is because they're very alkaline, and most people are acidic. Well, to have good health, you need to be pretty close to neutral. And so if you swish around a green drink in your mouth before you drink it, it will alkalize your mouth and make it taste better.
Look at that.
Isn't it cool? I know, right? So these fun little things that you learn, and it's something else that I think is key for people that I think people forget is fat is important. You need good fats in your diet because you cannot make hormones without them. You cannot make the myelin sheath, which is the part of your nervous system that helps with nerve conduction, is made of cholesterol. Like, you need fat. And fat's not bad for you. What's bad for you is sugar.
Right. Right.
And so the way that we're seeing nutrition now is changing in pretty big ways. The kind of old, low-fat diets, we're starting to see increases in heart disease because they replace fat with sugar in all of these products.
Mm-hmm.
And sugar, high blood sugar, causes your blood to have like crystals in it. That's what it scrapes the arteries. They then repair themselves with cholesterol. And the cholesterol buildup is what we thought was leading to heart attacks, but it's not the cholesterol that's the problem. Like taking cholesterol out of your diet's not going to change that. It's sugar that's causing the problem.
Wow.
We eat more sugar. A child will eat more sugar by the time they're 8 years old than people 100 years ago would have eaten in their entire life.
Right. Right.
Crazy.
All the convenient foods that are out there, everybody's so busy. It's just so easy to pick up something quick and easy without having any idea of what you're really feeding them. I mean, I feel bad because people really are trying the best they can, and until they are informed otherwise or sick and tired of their kids being sick and tired, then, but at least we've got information now where, and I hope that this show, and I'm going to promote it big, that there is a way to ease into this process. And okay, and Jodi, what do you think about having allergy tests?
That's a really great question. I'm going to try and keep it short because it's a really complicated issue. Skin allergy tests won't always show an allergy, and blood allergy tests won't always show an allergy. So the testing isn't perfect. We did something called bioenergetic testing, which is it tests the energy in the body in a similar way to an EKG or an EEG, but it uses the acupuncture points on the hands and the feet to test the body and see what kind of balance it's in. And there is a food allergy point and an environmental allergy point. But here's something that people don't think about. Okay, first of all, an allergy is typically a histamine reaction, and histamine is created in the liver. So people will be like, all of a sudden I'm allergic. Or over time, maybe your liver got congested with toxins and now you're having more allergic reactions because your liver can't deal with it. So oftentimes doing a liver cleanse will either greatly cut down or completely eliminate some allergies. Sometimes it is caused by leaky gut syndrome. So huge spike in gluten sensitivities in the last 10 years or so. They now think it's because of all the glyphosate in the food, which is the active ingredient in Roundup, in that herbicide we were talking about. It causes something called leaky gut syndrome. Well, basically what leaky gut is when you have microscopic holes in your small intestine, and now the gluten molecule is leaching into the blood. Well, what happens when you put a whole protein into your bloodstream? The body attacks it, because if it's a virus or a bacteria, your immune system is designed to attack it because it's a foreign invader. So now people are reacting to gluten because it's getting into their bloodstream. Whereas before, they don't actually have the gene for celiacs, right? It's not actually celiacs, but they know they feel better when they're not eating gluten.
Right.
And that, by healing the gut and balancing the gut, suddenly they can have gluten again, as long as it's organic and doesn't have glyphosate on it. Right? And then there's other scenarios where, okay, here's a good one, MSG, monosodium glutamate. People say, well, there's glutamate in nature all over the place. True story. There is. Our bodies make glutamate. But there are certain kids, my 8-year-old is one of them, who have a gene mutation that they don't break glutamate down efficiently. And since our bodies make it, especially in cases like that, they don't need more of it. And when you put more of it into their bodies, they now have too much glutamate in their brain, and glutamate is excitatory to the brain. And there's a pathway in the brain that turns glutamate eventually into GABA. And GABA is very calming for the brain. Well, they now know in autistic children, they don't have enough GABA.
Wow.
And they have too much glutamate. And so now they're crazy and they literally cannot calm themselves down. They can't. But it's a biological process in the brain. You give them some glycine or maybe some extra GABA, and you'll start seeing a change in their behavior because you're balancing their biochemistry.
Wow.
But that's the thing is, that's why I say that there is no one solution.
Right. And how do you find that out? I mean, you've taken so much time to study all this. How do you relate that to your own child, for Pete's sakes?
For me, it's been experience for sure, but there are definite clues. If it's an actual allergy, you're typically going to have other allergic type symptoms like dark circles under the eyes or puffy circles, postnasal drip with no reason, swollen tonsils and adenoids. This is one of the ones that get me. Doctors will say, oh, well, their tonsils just grew faster than the rest of them. No, that doesn't happen. And a child that isn't sick but has the swollen tonsils and adenoids, almost always they have a food allergy or they have some kind of toxicity, heavy metal, candida overgrowth, something like that. That is your immune system's first line of defense, let's say. You don't want to take that away. You want to find what's causing it, not just take the organs out of the body.
Right.
And so you will have other things. And sleep issues is another big one with allergies. You'll find sleep issues and anger. Kids who have huge tantrums. Yeah. That's often a food allergy.
Yeah. And I think most people think food allergies could not possibly be something as simple as the peas you're eating or the corn, something that is a vegetable. You would think that, okay, I'm feeding my kids all these, things that seem like good, but each child is individual. Corn could be bad for your child.
Particularly if it's genetically modified corn. Right. And all corn in the United States is genetically modified unless it's certified organic.
Yes. I even noticed, I think most people notice that they don't digest corn very well.
It's hard to digest. It's very difficult to digest.
Right. Let's take a break right now, and we will be right back. Okay, we're back. We have a guest, Crystal, who would like to ask some questions to Jodi. Go ahead, Crystal.
Thank you, Sheila and Jodi. Thank you, cutie. I love the summary of more or less like the high level summary of the health stuff, and I truly agree with you. It is a bit of a challenge when you have family members that go, well, I like this and I turned out okay. Right. And it's the challenge is explaining that, trying to be eloquent and fully self-educated in all the most recent literature and knowledge to explain to them things aren't like the way you grew up. And so the health, that's the challenges I get from the health side is I have my family members take care of my son, and I try to say, please feed him this way, and they choose to feed him another way. Oh, good job. Oh, good job. Okay, thank you. But more. I'm coming into a different stage in Nathan's life. He's 2.5, and he's actually becoming more aware of our conscious state, and he's becoming. I've seen. Okay. You go find the keys and bring them back. No. Okay. He's. I can tell. I try to meditate each day, and we do yoga together, and we have centering, breathing exercises. But he's becoming more consciously aware of energy states and stuff like that. So I'm just wondering. I'm just learning it myself. Like, sorry, I had a call come in. I'm of the generation where we're really learning, and we're in the state of learning this. And how do I, in addition to health, bring in the more physical health, bring in mental health state, emotional health state, and some practices that can guide me in caring for him and having more awareness in that?
Good question.
I think it comes down to some very simple things. And when I say simple, I mean simple to say, because if they were simple to do, everybody would be doing them. But you always have to go back to the basics. And so kids kind of already understand energy. And so the first step with children is acknowledging that they see it, feel it, sense it, and letting them know that it's okay for them to express that. You know, for example, in our old house, we lived in a not great neighborhood. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it, just energetically wasn't great for us. And my oldest would say, I see the black tornadoes. And to him, that was bad energy. And so acknowledging that and asking him about it, and how does it make you feel, and what does it look like? And that's going to help him stay aware. It's going to help him know that you support what he's seeing and what he's perceiving. And it's also going to help you tune into it. And what's great about these very sensitive kids is they can teach us.
Right.
And so while we're teaching them about how to live in the physical world, they're teaching us how to be energetic and spiritual and emotional beings. And so embrace the wisdom he's bringing to the family. That would be my first step. Second thing, enlightenment means lighting up all the dark places, right? You want to bring the light in. And for me, ego is the darkness. Ego will always choose fear, and your higher self will always choose love. And yes, I'm simplifying, but at its core, it is that simple. So in everyday decisions, when you're making choices, are you making the choice from a place of fear or a place of love? And the more aware you become of that, that's what mindfulness is, the more you become aware of choosing love. And the easier the practice gets. The next way that you can, in your everyday life, work on this stuff is play with your intuition. All right, there's 2 ways to go to this destination. What's my gut say? Okay, I'm leaving the house and I haven't looked at the weather report. I'm going to decide what to wear based on my gut. And you can do just little things like that, because it's really about tuning into your own self-knowledge and your own power. And the final thing I'll say is you are going to mess up. You will. There's no doubt about it. You're going to do things and go, smack my head. Why'd I do that? You'll never be perfect. We live in the 3rd dimension. It is a dimension of duality. If there is dark, there is light. If there is war, there is peace, etc., etc. However, can't be perfect, but you can be perfectly forgiving. It really is putting in the practice of forgiveness, of self, of others, of doing better when you know better and not beating up the girl who didn't know better. And then there's going to be those times when you know better and you still don't do better. And there's a lesson in that. You know, what you were saying about your family is perfect, because families have a way of not respecting boundaries. And it's easy to place boundaries with strangers, but with a family, when you start placing boundaries and trying to make that kind of healthy boundary with them, they're going to test you and they're going to push you, see if you really mean it. And sometimes you have to get kind of harsh about it. Like, I really do mean this, and I don't care what works for you. This is what works for my family. Mm-hmm. And they cannot argue with that. Mm-hmm. Place the boundary by saying, that's great, and I'm glad you're happy doing that, and I'm really glad that worked for you, and I'm working on what works for my family, and we have discovered this is what works for us, and I would like you to respect that.
Right. You know, I had said earlier that me and my kids and my grandkids, we're the generations who are breaking the chains. We're in uncharted territory. We're all just trying to change our ways, and we're trying this and that. And I really, like you said, quit being so hard on yourself, because we're trying. Our intentions are good, and as a group, or as our pod, or as our family, we have to support each other and not be so hard on each other as we chart through this area where we're discovering this doesn't work. How can we change it? So I think that's a very important part to the whole thing.
And, ultimately, how do we get from fear to love? Forgiveness.
Right. Right.
And it all starts within. That's the other thing that I would mention. We all know we can't control somebody else. And then you hear this whole sort of, yes, but we create our reality. Also true. So how does that work? Like, if somebody's doing something that's making us crazy, why are we creating it? Mm-hmm. And I would always say the answer is always inside. It's never outside of you. It's always inside. My biggest piece of parenting advice that I will give to everybody is trust your gut. That baby grew inside your body. You know that baby better than anybody else on the planet. And just because it works for 99% of the population doesn't mean it'll work for your child. And part of that goes into taking care of mommy. Because if you're taking care of yourself, that is going to work better for your child than if you're not. Like, you see the arguments about, they sleep in a crib, or they sleep next to me, or they breastfed forever, or they took a bottle. And there's those extremes. What works for you? Because if it's not working for mommy, it's not going to work for the baby.
Right.
And you have to trust your gut around that. From everything from what do I feed them, to whether or not I vaccinate, to whether or not I had a friend call in an absolute panic. They think my baby has strep and I don't want to give her antibiotics. What do I do? I can't tell her what to do, because strep is scary. Strep can be deadly. Is it usually? No, but it can be. So I talked her through it, and I gave her all of her options, but ultimately she had to go with her gut. And it's happened twice to me. And in one case, they gave antibiotics. And in the other case, she didn't give antibiotics. She went with a natural route. Both kids were fine. But you got to trust your gut.
Right. When you say trust your gut, for me, I was in touch with my inner guidance, or guides. And I say all the time, especially once the kids got in to be teenagers, how do you raise teenagers without guidance? I could not have done it myself. Woo! And I did make it through.
Don't me tell that. I have a 12-year-old. Don't tell me that.
Oh my God.
Here we go.
Yeah. But I'll tell you what, when circumstances came up and I did call upon guidance, I was guided in ways that I personally probably would not have come up with. And they were all based in love. So where my habit, or the habits of my tribe, were to react this way, by taking guidance or intuition or whatever you want to call it, I was able to conduct myself with a foundation of love, and it made all the difference in the world. And it kind of created natural boundaries in that process.
Right. That's key. Boundaries between parents and their children, that's a tough one, especially, because you're go from being 100% responsible to not responsible at all for this being. And that's a big change all the way through it. Mm-hmm. And it's why I say don't pass your babies around to whoever wants to hold them, because you need to teach them boundaries from step one. And you don't do that with strangers. And I don't care if they're your family member. To that baby, they're a stranger. Let them get used to them. Let them get to know them. And if your child says no, or if your child says, I don't want to give Grandma Ethel a hug, don't make them. Let them place those boundaries. Let them learn to trust themselves. And you need to do the same, and you need to recognize that there will be times when they're going to do things that you know is not good for them. Mm-hmm. And you'll do everything to stop it, and you won't be able to. And that's when you have to recognize as a mother, that's their path. It's not my path, it's their path. And this is the lesson, the journey that they are on.
Right.
And love them.
Right.
Because ultimately isn't that what we all want? To be loved.
Right.
To know we have a safe haven. And that's my philosophy of mothering, is I want them to know they have a safe haven to come to. I want them to know that they are lovable because they are them, period. It doesn't matter how they behave, what they do, what mistakes they make. They are lovable just because they are.
That's right.
Making bad choices doesn't make you not lovable.
Right. You know, I have, my family is kind of mixed. We have steps and you know, adoptions and you know, when there's that aspect, it takes another level of patience and acceptance. And I'm so extremely proud of my kids, because they have taken on, you know, kids from their partners, and I'm very proud of them, because they did not push themselves into a position. They allowed it to unfold, which it takes a lot of patience, and they've allowed those kids to be who they are, and you know, it's turned out to be a very loving situation in both the families that I'm talking about, and then I have single mom family where she's just working her butt off to do the best she can, and her girls are getting old enough to make choices about what foods they're going to eat. And so again, we have 3 generations that are trying the best they can, making changes, and I think we're all pretty good at supporting one another in these efforts, because we are truly aware, because I speak about it. We're the generations that's changing things, guys. Let's just keep moving forward.
And the key about that, about being that generation, is we have to be very, very aware of our own cognitive dissonance, because we get on this path and we get passionate about it. And one of the keys to really moving things forward is being open to new information, even if it rejects all the old information.
That's right. That's right.
And that is, I mean, that's challenging for everybody. And again, it comes back to what we were talking about with Crystal. It's about mindfulness.
Right.
And practice, and doing the best you can with the tools you have, and asking questions and being open to hearing the answers. Let me say that again, and being open to hearing the answers, because we all have been in situations where we just didn't want to hear it.
Right. Right. Especially whenever it's been ingrained in you that this is the way. And it is going to take some time to do a little research, or maybe watch a video, or, you know, the first step is, I don't think this is working for me anymore, and I need to find some change.
Setting the intention.
Right.
Step number 1, set the intention.
Right.
And you know, where energy goes, or where thought goes, energy flows.
Right. Right. And there isn't a show that I do that we don't mention how powerful our thoughts are. And here's another reason why, keeping that nurturing, loving atmosphere for your children, because they, like you said, they've got thoughts, they're manifesting. You know, happy children are probably manifesting happier things.
Isn't that true? That's really true. It's funny, you know, my kids are very far apart. They're 12, 8, and 3. And the 12-year-old's really good with the 3-year-old, but the 8-year-old has been somewhat challenged by, he doesn't understand sort of developmental stages and why does she get her way when I don't, and things like that. And he'll get kind of crazy with her. And so she's crazy with him right back. Well, she doesn't like me and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're the older one. You're going to have to change your behavior. Well, I can't do that.
Yeah.
You're setting the example.
Right.
Like, how do you want her to treat her? Maybe you should treat her that way. But man, as an only child, that's been an interesting dynamic for me to watch.
Wow. Well, I know that it has been important for me to be to set as a good example for my family and my kids, my grandkids. I've watched them play on their computer like they have their own shows. They've been watching my shows. I mean, it is absolutely beautiful to see that as the top notch here, as I heal myself, as I change my habits, I am fully aware that they are watching, and that the most important thing that I can do is just keep being better myself.
Right.
Instead of trying to change them, I'm changing me.
Right. And that's really the only control you have, right? And yet at the same time, how freeing is that?
Right.
And that's, I find a lot of parents who want to heal their kids but aren't willing to change their diet.
Right.
You can't do that. Like,
right.
You have to walk your talk, particularly with their children, because they're little mirrors and they will mirror everything back at you, but they like magnify it. And so whatever you're doing, they will magnify it right back at you.
That's right.
And sometimes, I'll think, what am I doing that's creating this behavior in them? And then I realize, oh, maybe they're getting it from somewhere else. But the lesson they're teaching me is to how to hold the space for them, and how to be patient with them, and how to not blame myself.
Right.
And just
Keep
more love. Keep choosing love.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions? Would you like to talk to Jodi?
She hear me? Any other questions?
Nope, I guess not.
No, I'm just loving the energy that you guys are putting out there, and thank you for all the wise wisdom. And yeah, it's great that I guess us women are together right now talking about being a mom and making mistakes and doing the best we can and coming from love. And that's all we can do. And thank you for the invitation to join tonight.
Oh, quite welcome. I love having guests like this. I love having the group. I've always had just one-on-one, and I'll tell you, support groups between mommies and daddies is, I think it's vital. It's like mommies and daddies aren't always in the perfect mode at the same time. So sometimes somebody has to be a little more for the other. And then just like with us sisters, with all of us mommies, that we're merging together, we're sharing this information because we all have this great intention to make the world a better place, to make our children a better place, to make ourselves a better example and healthier and happier, and to address all these layers that we are. And thank God that, we've come to this age where, look how we've got this tech. Otherwise, we wouldn't have gotten together. How amazing is this?
Right? I noticed we had somebody join and now she's disappeared. I don't know if she's coming back or not. That was Jodi. Her name is Jodi as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm Jodi, I appreciate, for one thing, all the time and effort you've taken into researching all the things that you have, because that is so time consuming, and you had a purpose in doing so, your children, which makes it a very powerful thing to do. And I'm sure that, when you're doing things for your kids and your family, you get this drive that, that parents get.
I get to do this. I get to, you know,
Right.
I don't ever want to see a mom go through what I went through if I have a solution to help her. Because when my oldest was 12 and we were going through all his health issues, I didn't have any help. There was no Facebook. There was, you know, I was pretty much doing all this on my own.
Right.
And let me tell you, it's some of the hardest years of my life trying to heal my baby. And I did it. I did it, you know, well, or he did it rather. But there's nothing worse than not knowing how to help your child. It's the worst feeling in the world. And so if I can help somebody else from the wisdom I've gained and come to people like you, Sheila, who has more wisdom, you know, I'm going to have a teenager next year. I might need your help, you know, to be able to create this environment and, you know, yay, go divine feminine. Here we go. Like we're finding some balance and it's beautiful.
And Jodi, I have noticed that people do come to you and they do ask you questions and you are in service. And that is wonderful to see all the people reaching out to you. Give us some where you can be contacted.
Well, my website is www.higherlivingjourney.com. And the name of my business comes from, I believe we're all trying to take it up to the next level. And we all start on this journey wherever it is we start. And like you said earlier, some people take baby steps and some people are grasshoppers and they take huge leaps. But you have to find the journeys right for you and you end up with your higher living journey. So higherlivingjourney.com. And, you know, I've got like 8 pages on Facebook. And I'm available via email. You can contact me through the website. And I do have a couple different companies that I represent. Purium I mentioned earlier as far as natural health. And I also represent Poovy Organics, which is a personal care company, has more certified organic personal care products than any other company on the market. And so, like I said, I'm all about pure living, and that's why I aligned myself with those companies. I also do shamanic work and energy work and emotional processing with people. And those are things that I can do long distance because energy is not dependent on physical place.
That's right.
So all that information's at my website.
All right. Well, everyone, I hope you've enjoyed this. I every time I'm with Jodi, I learn something new. And I just want to be supportive to all the mommies and daddies out there who are trying their best. I want to be able to share with you whatever I can find. Jodi has been my research girl. I've got a whole page for her on my website so that you can, if you're starting to have these questions, if you're starting to want to change things in your life and in your children's life, Jodi's got some answers for you and can guide you and send you where you need to find more information. So thank you very much. Thank you to all my guests who joined us. That was so cool. I see you all have your babies with you. I just love babies. And thank you for your time and effort.
Okay, bye.
Bye, baby.
Thank you, bye.
Bye, baby.
Bye.
All right, peeps. From my heart to yours, namaste. Thank you.
Namaste. Thank you,
Thank
Sheila.
you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Mwah.